Welcome back to Better Life Today. My name is Henry Martin, and today our guests are Christian Berdahl and his good wife, Coby. They're involved in an international music ministry, and Christian comes from a very interesting background of theater and music production and stage. Welcome back. We're just really glad to hear.
Thanks for having us.
Last time we were talking about how God had led you through secular theater. I think you ought to summarize that once again, just so that we can get to the same place.
Because of my childhood and the abuse and the mental and emotional abuse that I suffered under, I became an actor, as it were, as a child. And when I was looking for an elective in high school, theater was one that I could choose from. And I thought, that sounds fun. And I got involved in theater, and I found that I was like a born actor, in the sense that actually I was more of a created actor because of my environment as a child. There was so much hurt and pain that I had to act like everything was all right, and mask my tears when it was time to cry, and when you were being hurt. And so I became an actor as a child, and when I jumped into theater, it was like being a natural at it. I could become the character, and it was uncanny how much I could nail it. And so I wouldn't call that a blessing. I would call it, because of the curse of my life, it actually continued to be an escape and a curse to me, actually, because I never dealt with who I really was and the brokenness that I had inside. I just kept running to escape in theater, in television, and in music.
Well, different personas must have surfaced then.
Oh, yeah. In fact, it's pretty interesting. One of the shows that I was in later in life was Amadeus, Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. I actually played the lead role, Amadeus. And there's a part actually throughout the whole entire play, he is terrified by the haunting images of his father. And I'll tell you what, I still get chills when I think about it, because I was able to literally be terrified by the thought of an ex-stepfather. And I won awards for that particular production, because it was so tangible, so real, so gritty. And the people were just like, whoa.
You could really put your teeth into it.
Right, yeah.
Coby, as this kind of journey was going on in Christian's life, what was your background?
I was in a very wonderful home, and it was really good. I just was working hard and met him when we were both just worldly people, and we had got together and just continued. We had a wonderful relationship, and he was already out of theater by the time we had met, and he was more in television production and looking forward to going down and doing film school and getting his resume growing in that arena. And so we just had a wonderful relationship, really just aspiring for greatness in the world sense.
Right.
We wanted all of the
accolades, all the money and the cars and the house, and
achieving the great American dream.
That's exactly what we were
half a dog, 2.1 children. We wanted all of it.
Well, something's changed in both your lives as you continued your journey through life. Some way, God revealed Himself to you, and you decided that you needed to make a change in your life. Now, in what kind of sequence did that take place?
Well, I was doing well in production. I had acquired quite a great resume. And what's interesting, we had moved to a different town, and I couldn't find a job in production, and yet there was a lot of production going on. And my dreams of film school seemed to be dashed, because we had left the area where the school was I wanted to go to as an exclusive school, and I was not able to fulfill that. So my life professionally started to kind of spiral downwards. And one thing led to another, and I decided I want to go see a friend of mine, this religious guy, because he just seemed like he had a level head. And I went and found him, and within a few days, I was offered a job to work in his full-time Christian ministry.
Well, this must have been quite a change of pace for you.
It was the ultimate, because I was in TV production, I watched whatever I wanted, listened to whatever I wanted to, hung out with whatever I wanted, whoever I wanted, and now I was going to be living in a house where God's money had bought it, and I was told no TV, no music, no secular magazines, no secular books. This is the house that God's money bought, and nothing will defile it. And I was like, okay. I was ready for a change. And praise God, he lived enough of a life that was different from the life I had, that I thought, well, let's at least try this.
Well, were you so with him at this time?
We were together, and sadly, we lived together, which is just the world way. You live together prior to being married. And unfortunately, I ended up getting pregnant. And when I had gotten pregnant, we ended up losing the baby. I had had a miscarriage at about 4.5 months and was very sad. And so we had moved at that time then to the other state that he was talking about. And when we moved there, it was interesting because we started all of a sudden feeling very uncomfortable with our relationship. Now, we were engaged at the time, but it was like, wait a minute, I don't want to have a baby prior to being married. And we started realizing that we were getting the cart before the horse. I mean, it all of a sudden made such an impact on me emotionally that I knew he loved me, but now I was thinking, well, does he really? Or is he just going to marry me because I'm pregnant? Or all those different thoughts that came through. And we started getting very uncomfortable for some reason, both of us, with being together but not being married. And so we were living together and we didn't know any other way. So he moved into another bedroom because we thought, we shouldn't be intimate. We're not married yet, and really, you shouldn't be intimate, which was just a foreign thought before. We'd never even considered that. And then that was too hard because
we liked each other. I mean, we were intending on being married, so that was just too difficult.
And so he said, you know what, I think I need to move out until after we're married. And after the wedding, then, let's just do this the right way.
Understand, we didn't even realize there was a pulse of morality, if you will, or Christian standards or ethics happening. We didn't know that's what it was. But there was
even our family, our friends are looking, thinking, what are you doing? You guys are going backwards. Is something wrong with your relationship?
Right.
And we're like, no, we're still engaged. But
so in the world
there was something in us that was changing.
I'm interested in what your family's opinion was. I mean, this must have been a very rocky situation for them to look on.
Yeah. When we had separated then, he ended up going and seeing his old friend, and that's when he went to work for the Lord.
It happened pretty quick.
Yeah, it happened really fast. And I, at that point, was very upset, thought,
I'm bailing out.
Yes, I felt he was bailing, and I didn't want to have anything to do with a religious life. I thought, what are you talking about? You're going to be an amazing film producer, and we're going to live this glamorous life, and you're going to work for a ministry. It was just like, you're switching everything on me. I mean, this is not what I signed up for.
Quite a pay cut.
Out of context.
It was very different. And so we didn't even talk for about 6 months. I just couldn't talk to him. I was so upset and so hurt. So when he was gone, finally we wanted to just wrap it up. We thought we need to see each other and have closure.
Yeah.
And doing that, there was an amazing change in him, which we had talked about before. And so that led my heart to just open a bit.
And it was enough.
It was enough. It was enough just to open up a little bit. And he shared a picture of Jesus that I just hadn't seen before. The Jesus who is in the Bible, the beauty of who he is and his character and everything about him, and that it broke my heart.
It broke her heart.
I wanted to know more.
Ultimately, we got together, and the intention was she'd move back to California, and I was going to work there. She became the manager of a health food store. The man ran a ministry and owned a health food store, and she began to manage that. We began to study. She saw everything as I had seen it in the Bible. We felt we were equally yoked, and that same guy was the guy that performed our marriage.
So what was your parents' take on this whole experience?
Yeah, my dad really had the hardest time with it. I think my mom didn't like it, but she's very supportive of me anyway, and she knew that I have a good head on my shoulders, and she loved Christian. My dad was very uncomfortable with it. His religious things in his life, he definitely had not very good experiences with different individuals and stuff, and so he didn't like the idea of me going and getting involved in religious things.
Right.
And so I had went out actually to see him at one point and help with some ministry work for a couple weeks, and he had told me when I was leaving, I knew he was not happy about it, and he was having trouble talking to me about it prior to me leaving. And the morning I was leaving to go catch the airplane, he was leaving for work, and he said, don't go. And he couldn't say anything else to me other than he just looked, and he was very firm, and he said, if you go, then that's it. You don't come back. you're just not my daughter. And he wasn't meaning it in a way that was, you're not my daughter. I could just see he was so upset. He didn't know what to say. It was like his last effort.
But he issued an ultimatum, didn't he?
He did. And I had trouble leaving. Yeah. And I was crying, and I called him, and I said, I can't go, because I have a very close relationship with my family. Called my mother at work. I'm like, what's going on? And Dad's so upset with me. And she's like, okay, wait a minute, just let me talk to him or whatever. And finally, my brother showed up. He was going to take me to the airport. And my brother said, it's not right. What he said, I don't want you to go either. He said, I don't think you should go. He said, but if you don't go, you will always be mad.
You'll wonder.
And you'll always wonder, and you will be mad at Dad for this, and that's not right. So you need to just go. And I was late already, and he said, you're not going to make your plane anyway, but let's just go. He said, if you make your plane, then you're supposed to go, and if you don't, then it's done. And the plane was delayed.
And she made the flight.
Oh, so now several years have taken place, have they not?
Yes, it's been 14 years.
14 years?
14 years since we were married, and so over that since this happened. But afterwards, it was pretty rough. I was able to go back into the house, but it was very quiet. Mm-hmm. My dad couldn't talk to me very well. There was distance there. Christian, though, came out, and he flew out and decided that, we need to sit down together. He needed to face my dad. Yes, yeah. we were. They knew him from before, and he wasn't going to shy away.
They loved me, and I had loved them.
That it was time to sit.
But I wasn't going to steal their daughter away in their minds.
Right.
So we went. We had a powwow, and they laid into me for hours. And by the end of it, I would correct things if they were off on it. If not, I'd say, "You're right. Please forgive me. I'm sorry." And they were just like, "What's up with this guy?" And so, because that's not my nature. My nature, especially back then, was to tangle and just confrontational. And I'll tell you, I can duke it out with the best, verbally especially. And
He was very subdued.
The Lord worked a miracle in my life. And so they were like, interesting. Then we dropped the bomb on him. By the way, she's leaving with me, and she's going to fly out and live out in California with me. And then they went crazy again.
We're
going to get married. And so they didn't want to come to the wedding, her side of the family, and it was just a big mess.
They didn't. My whole side on my dad's side didn't want to come to the wedding. They were all just afraid of this religious aspect of this relationship that we were going to have now. But they ended up coming, and my dad ended up walking me down the aisle. Yeah. And now today, both my parents actually work for the ministry, and so God is so good. Which is an amazing story, but
it is. They're full-time workers in our ministry now, and they're seeing a different side of Jesus, and they have both given their lives to Jesus Christ.
Well, give us a brief overview of your ministry now, what you're doing and where you're doing it, and then how you're impacting lives.
Go ahead.
Well, we live in New Mexico, and we've been out there about 3 years, and we built a studio. And we have a ministry building going there. Our ministry's actually been going for about 10 years now that we have stepped out and we're running the ministry. And really, most of what the ministry deals with is just really practical Christianity, things that we deal with in everyday life, because we wanted that vital, close connection with Jesus. Personally, yeah. That was our desire. And when we came to know the Lord, it was such a beautiful thing coming from the world, and the idea that we had seen in the world of what Christianity was and who Jesus was, and learning that was so different of who God really is, and the character that He has, and the love He has for us, and the changes He can make in our life, and the beauty of living the way that He shares with us in His Word, that there's so much freedom and joy that comes from that. And so we wanted to share that part of what God had taught us and brought us along. And so a lot of that dealt with really practical things, because coming from the world, we had heavily addictions to music and movies and TV and a lot of entertainment things. That was the industry that he was in, was entertainment. And so we really could see how that affected our walk, that it really hindered and put a barrier between us and God many times. A lot of the things that we would turn and run to instead of running to God, because it was easier to turn to other things than learning how to go to God. And so God has just taken us on this journey, and a lot of the material and things that He shares over the years have come from that.
Our personal experience.
Our personal experience, and then sharing what the Lord showed us, and maybe this would help you.
Well, music is a vehicle that you're using now to be able to communicate to people where their relationship is, or where their focus is. How are you able to actually do that, and what is the outcome as a result of what you're doing?
Music is part of it, and the spoken word is just as large a part. But the Lord, when He called me and said, I want you to start a ministry, and I didn't know that. I was called by a little camp meeting, and they said, would you come and speak, and would you come and do a Christian concert for us? Now, I had only done special musics, one here, one there, maybe on this videotape or in a church, that type of thing. And they said, would you come and do this for us? And I said, well, what do you mean a sermon? They said, well, we got a videotape of your sermon on the dangers of television. Now, I had only done one sermon in my life, and it was recorded, and it had been sent out, and I didn't know it.
I see.
And then, and some of my songs were on different sermons and stuff, and I just said, take it, and anyone who wants to use them, use them. So they called and said, would you do this? And I said, sure. I actually, no, I didn't say that. At first, I was like, I don't think so. I'm the technical guy now. I don't really want to be up front anymore because I had fears of my head getting big again and my ego issues. So I was like, I don't know, I've really got to pray about it. And with the encouragement of my wife and the Holy Spirit, I said, okay, I'll show up. So I sketched out this little tiny, my testimony. I didn't even realize I had one at that point. But I sketched it out a little, my testimony and some songs, and took my notes for my sermon and got to my location where I was going to be. My host showed me to my room, and I had left all of my notes in the seat back pocket of the airplane. Oh. And I'm thinking, oh, Lord, I'm telling you, you've called the wrong guy. I'll be happy to work as many hours or do whatever you want in the behind the scenes. And He said, no, I have something I want you to do. So as my custom had become to go to the Bible and inspired writings, I was on a laptop of the ministry, and I stumbled upon one writer's depiction of heaven. And she was inspired with this vision of heaven. And as we were reading this, as I was reading it, the Holy Spirit said, put that song that you have right there, put this one there. And in 35 minutes, a program that I'm actually known around the world for, it's called A Vision of Heaven. In 35 minutes, that program was born.
Isn't that interesting?
Amazing. And so what God did is He showed me, here's a way that you can go out and minister in music, narrate these words, and it's not going to be about you. And I went, wow, I could do that. And so as we went out, I saw, eventually, God gave me a vision. My goal is to go out and evangelize the world as much as we possibly can, evangelize the world, and to give a perspective of Jesus that I myself and now my new wife had actually learned about, and that it's a real thing, and it's a tangible thing, and it changes lives. And we used music with this new program to show people that there's a better land. And it's not a fairyland, it's a real place. And that someday, very, very soon, we're all going to be able to be in heaven should we make that choice.
Isn't that the truth?
And so our goal is to go out and fan the flame where the flame is, and go out and light fires also.
So what kind of results are you getting from this lighting fires?
Wow. When we started the ministry, I said, well, when God started the ministry, basically He gave us a name, Shepherd's Call, and I had responded to the Shepherd's Call. She had responded to the Shepherd's Call, and it was, go out and call my people, they're straying from me. All right, so I'm an under shepherd, He's the great shepherd, right? And we didn't realize this, but our influence was going to the young and to the old, and it was crossing all different denominational boundaries. I wasn't denominationally bound, because a picture of heaven and the gospel of Jesus Christ is for all people.
That's true.
All colors, all races, black, white, and I say purple with yellow polka dots. It doesn't matter what we are. God is in love with each one of us, and He wants to save us completely. It's just we're the ones running from Him. So the results we've had have been tremendous. We have young people, because of my story, that are coming to us and saying, I've got the same problems. Old people, middle-aged people saying, I was in an abused home like that too, and what happened? What did God do for you? How did this happen? And so we're counseling with people, we're emailing them, we're on the phone with kids that want to kill themselves, and God's had us open our doors, and we've brought families and couples into our home, and in 4 days they come and they've wanted to actually they sat on the as most opposite side of the car as they could, and they hated each other, and they were bound for divorce. In 4 days, God works miracles, and they're in love. They're going, wow, we never saw this before, and God is patching up people's lives. And it's not because of us, Henry. That's the reality. We're just a willing instrument. It's God working through instruments, and He wants to do that for all of us.
This must be terribly fulfilling for you.
Yes, absolutely. I would have never thought that I could have the fulfillment. And it was so opposite of what I thought I wanted.
Yes.
But you know what? I actually wanted this to go out and help people. And see, in my mind, in my distorted little mind when I was younger, my escape was entertainment. And it was helping me, quote unquote, I thought. So I wanted to create entertainment to help other people that had gone through what I wanted. But I didn't realize that was a faulty method. And the escape is truly found in Jesus Christ. So
Amen.
Now I have to go out and tell people about Jesus Christ.
Amen.
Because it's real. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I know it makes sense with you.
It's made a difference in my life. And I'm just so excited. How could people learn more about what you do?
Well, we have a website. We're going to go under a revamping of that. But our website is www.shepherdscall.com. That's SHEPHERDSCALL.com. And there we have music. You can listen to music samples. We have free sermons. All the sermons we ever put together, they're free, and you can download them right there, or call us and we'll send you free CDs, and we'll even pay for the shipping. So we have learned that you freely give, and God makes it work. We asked God, I told God, imagine this, I told God, if you make the phone ring, we'll step forward. Well, the phone hasn't stopped ringing in over 10 years.
Praise the Lord. Now, you've impacted a lot of people through your Distraction Dilemma seminar. What is the reaction from some of the young people that have attended that?
Phenomenal. And that's been in 3 different countries, a shorter version of it. We've just recently expanded about 3 times the length of what we had. And it's been incredible. Why don't you talk about that?
Well, many of the young people end up coming and saying, you know, they're a little upset right when we're coming, because a lot of times you don't want to hear it. You don't want another person telling you what you can and can't do, whatever, but they end up coming at the end and just thanking us so much for sharing truly what things do and telling them why. Says, you know what, I've been told my whole life, you don't listen to this, but I never could understand why.
They would say things like, that's the devil's music. It's like,
yeah.
Well, prove that to me. What do you mean by that? I mean, they're not being rebellious, they just want to know.
And so if you can't explain it well enough, and you don't have a firm foundation to stand on, then we don't know why we do what we do. Why would we be making this choice? Why am I not going to listen to that? Because it makes me feel good. So if it makes me feel good, then why isn't it okay? And so to explain those things, and we had to answer those questions for ourselves. And as we went around and shared, the seminar grew. It grew from 3 messages all the way to, what is it?
I think it was 9 or 10 now.
Yeah, because we were consistently seeing everywhere we went the same questions coming in,
right,
that we're not answering some of these. If this many people have these same questions and we had those, then we need to look into this more so we can answer these questions. So people can stand on something that's firm. And that's what God does. God gives us a foundation to stand on in all areas. And once we can stand on that, that empowers us to live the way He wants us to live, so that we can have those blessings and that freedom in our life that we want.
Absolutely.
How could a viewer get a hold of one of your Distraction Dilemma seminars, and what would they expect to receive if they did?
Well, we just recently videotaped the series, and we are going to go back and we're going to get that edited, and we're going to make it available as inexpensively as we can, so they can be spread like the leaves of autumn. You know, you look around it's in autumn and there's leaves all over. Well, we want that same thing with our messages that the Lord has given us. It's not our message, it's God's message. And so
that's deferred praise, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. So we want to give those out, and when they get those, not only will they have the entire seminars, but we're going to go back to our studio, and we're going to set up, Coby and I sitting in our studio, and we're going to further even what we shared recently here in Grants Pass. We're going to further that, and because we have a stack even from the past weekend in the last seminar we did we have a stack of ping, and there's some great questions, and we went, oh, we haven't thought about that. So we'll have a little round table with each other, and we'll add as special features even to what we shared recently.
And
so
we'll share a lot of the testimonies of
Yes.
people that have given us over the years, because I think there's power in hearing the victories that other people have, and people come from such different areas of life, and the way that music has affected them in their life, and to hear their testimony and the victories that they've had and the joy they've had when they've overcome those things. We'll share a lot of that.
I got
as
a
well.
phone call this morning from one of my dear brothers. He's actually my best and my closest friend. And he's had a struggle for a long time with media and different things. And he said, every time I know when I'm going to hang out with you, I'm going to come away going, okay, what does the Lord really want me to think about in my life? And praise God for that. But he called me this morning. He said, I made a commitment, Christian. I made a commitment. And I said, really? He said, yes. And I'm so freed in that. I told the devil, no, no, no. And they decided to take a 90-day challenge, which was to do on a media fast, actually, for 90 days. And they're so excited as a family. They have a young daughter. And they are so excited. And he said, my wife even sent you an email. You've got to read it. I haven't been able to read it yet. So as soon as we're done here, I'm going to go read this. And the reality is that he said, I am feeling a sense of freedom that I've never had before. Because he said, I finally gave it all to God. Thank you for this seminar.
And you must have experienced that same freedom in your own life.
Yes. It's the biggest lie of the devil, that you go out there, do whatever you want, that's when you're free. No. Because if you have a healthy conscience and you've been a Christian for even a little speck of time, the Holy Spirit begins to work in our life, and we know what's acceptable and what's not to a large degree. And when we're living in compromise, it's a life that is lifeless.
If you want to experience the same kind of freedom that Coby and Christian have now experienced, and they are reporting from others who attend their seminars, this same kind of freedom in Jesus Christ, you can have that because He wants you to have the desires of your heart. That's God's promise for you.
Amen.
Not only that, He wants you to be able to grow and grow in this new experience and share your love of Jesus with others, just as Coby and Christian have done, making an impact that will count for eternity. Because Jesus is coming soon, and He's got something for you to do that no one else can do.